Hi, I'm Patty from The Mind's Eye, and I'm here today with Brett Sheldon. And Brett Sheldon does a lot of different things, but we're going to talk mostly about astrology, but I'm sure some other stuff will come in. And thank you for coming today, Brett.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. He's been here once before, but we needed him to come back, so he did. So you've had a lot of changes in your life. So what kind of stuff? You've been doing some shamanic drumming at my shop.
Yeah, you kind of talked me into it.
Yes.
That actually was a funny story. I'm not sure if I had told you this or not. So I had been doing shamanic work for a long time, and I kind of figured out what was going on. And I got to this point, it's like, oh, I should teach this. And then I kind of came up with my own roadmap. It just came like, I have to do these things and I'll be good to teach it. And you had asked me probably like a year or two before, and I was like, no. And then there was like it was like a 9-step program or something just in my head. And I was on like, I had just done like number 8, and you had asked me like the next day. And so I just finished off the next thing. Must be. Yeah. Must be. Yeah. I was like, oh, I guess I should just wrap this up. And like everything came together like at that time. In just the right way, and yeah, that was fantastic.
And he has his fan club that loved it and was
yeah, that ended up being more like a mentorship program.
Absolutely.
How long did that run? At least a year.
Over a year.
Yeah,
over a year.
Close to 2.
And you had one lady that added on, but basically 3 of them are always the same there. Plus whoever else showed up.
I think they were all good by a year.
Yeah.
They just it was such a good community
and very bumming when Friday nights was a little hard to get over the Don Bridge, so that turned into a little bit of an issue. So,
Yep.
But we'll figure out new.
Absolutely.
Tell me about some of the new ideas you have of a program that you want to start doing.
So I'm putting together a class. I've done a couple informal things with friends and testing stuff out on belonging and trust. So it's just stuff I've seen, stuff that I realized I had in the service that I didn't know before I went in and didn't really understand that I was missing when I got out. And a lot of stuff has just been coming forward on how does it work and how should it work, and things I was taking for granted and things I was expecting from other people that weren't really fair. So it ties in a lot with astrology. Like there's just so many good things, and I feel like I was just saying, like in the shamanic class, they had like belonging, and to me that was people can just be who they are and say whatever they want and feel like it's okay, right? And that's like feeling trusted, and it goes both ways. And I think that's actually more of what the shamanic class was after like the first year. Like they had been taught everything, right? And they were all rolling, and they pretty much had it down, but they came together and they just felt comfortable saying whatever. And they heard my crazy stuff. I felt the same way. I felt like I belong there too. I've got like, fathoms of crazy stories. Mm-hmm. And we would just all share, and it was fantastic. And I felt like that's something that they were like keying in on, like, oh, this space is like really good. Like it almost probably wouldn't have mattered whether it was shamanic or anything at that point, just people like connecting, and that's really a big piece. And I feel like people have kind of gotten far afield and not really understanding what they're doing. People are afraid to talk to everybody, even in your own families.
Me too. I've always had a problem talking to people.
But I mean wholly, like say anything, like, my work or whatever. Like I can't just say like, hey, I've got some crazy stories. Yeah. Well, you've got your own place when I was working in like science labs and
stuff.
I
think I was actually very blessed because I came into this world not caring what people thought.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
And I thought that was such a commodity when I realized how many people get so uptight about it. So I'm so excited that I had that. And then I had a father that told me I was the best thing that ever walked the earth. So that kind of like...
Absolutely.
And he used to tell everybody, she's got to make more than a man makes. And you know what I mean? And stuff like that.
Fantastic. We all need the booster.
And I was this high when he started doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was very
And that's what actually people should be doing.
Oh, I agree.
And it's not. There's like little petty competitive things, or I guess like the trust piece, I'll share kind of a big one. People get really offended when people assume, right? So it's like, oh, like you did this and you did it because of this, and people get offended. And whether you're receiving it or whether you're sharing it, we're just all like in ignorance really all the time, right? So it's just like, oh, like you think that's all right. And as long as they don't fight and like climb on your head and like tell you who you are, it's all right, right? So if somebody says something, it's like you can just let it go and then just explain. And hopefully they trust you enough that when you explain something and it makes just as much sense as whatever the drama was in their head, that they let it go. things really work out. And the other way around, if you're going to go at somebody and say like, hey, this is really messed up, when they say no, it's not, and they explain, let it happen. I actually had happen recently where I kind of went at somebody and was like, hey, this is really messed up, I don't get it. And she had just corrected me. She had like yelled back, and that was cool. Like, well, that last piece. So like I had 4 out of 5 pieces, but the 5th one was really a big one, and I wasn't really right. Like, it wasn't truthful, it was more feeling than factual. And she corrected me, and I was like, oh, awesome, thanks. Yeah. And I was happy, and I said it. But she kept she yelled again, like she was assuming I wouldn't hear. And it'd be like, there probably was times when I wouldn't. And it's like so many people would be doing it, but it was like,
you've grown a lot.
I've really rather be happy.
Energy.
I'd rather just be happy than right.
Your energy has improved so much in a short period of time.
Yeah, I've met a lot of really good
energy,
people.
But you know what I mean? I really feel that it
Absolutely, thank you.
Improved a lot. So I know you're doing something right, for
yes.
sure.
Yes.
So that's doing it. And I have no problem with people having difference of opinions, so
sure.
I have no problem with it. Now, all right, the gentleman that was the shaman up there, he and I have totally different opinions on politics, and I don't talk politics, I don't write anything on Facebook, but I love to do, when I find something nasty about what he believes in, like I take a picture of it and I text it to him, and he does the same, and we laugh about it, and that's how it should be.
Yeah, we should all be like positive mirrors for each other.
Yep.
So I'll kind of throw out another thing that I've noticed too that really kind of poked me, and I've seen other people kind of respond, is the smarter you are, the more you actually defend ideology that you have, right? And most people don't really see it. So I've thought about teaching like critical thinking and logic, and that's all important. But I've found out in myself and other people, most of the time intelligent people are not going for objective truth, right? They're going to look smart, or the same way if you're really attractive or whatever, you do things in a social thing, right? So it's I have an identity that they're defending, and it's not always understood, right? So people are confused in themselves. But that was a tie into astrology. The moon was identity, and your sun's your character, and your rising sign is your personality, and I feel we're hammered all day with these things that are sort of reinforcing our identity or who we do choose to talk to or in the same group. And then we just lose the ability to really communicate. And we don't have time.
I agree.
People don't take time anymore. So you're a soundbite. So they ask you one opinion, right? And they're like, oh, then this is your political thing. And I know all about you. I don't need to hear any more. And it's just so insulting.
And I don't have any problem there. Is a practitioner that is passed in 2014 that I've had come up in teaching, that there's some people that have hail her, and I don't agree with it. And she does sessions and stuff that are 4 hours, and you or I could not sit through a 4-hour session. We would be out the door in 2.3 minutes. So I try to explain to it, it's different people you have to do things differently with different clients. And I've had a couple of people that was oh my God, you give me a headache. Then do it your way. See how many clients you have. Yeah. When you sit there, and then of course they want their rate for the 4 hours too. So people are not going to come into a session to hand you $1,000 because, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Some ridiculous amount of money. So it's...
Yeah, there's a benefit nowadays to doing some stuff quickly. But.
Yeah. I have the attention span of a flea. So that's the other thing. I love doing metaphysical hypnosis, and I love doing the Karuna Reiki, because they all have those symbols that backdoor it into almost instantaneous gratification.
Absolutely.
And I like to teach that because I don't like to do the same thing all the time. And I was telling you before,
Absolutely.
Astrology, I absolutely loved your astrology class because we talked about it earlier about you had the movie about, what was it, Stepfather or Father?
It was Daddy's Home Too.
Daddy's Home Too.
The bowling scene.
I got to tell you something. I loved it. Now, I got into astrology in the late 80s, maybe 90s, and I loved it. I loved it. I decided I was going to make up charts and stuff. Now, this is way before computer stuff, right? And I made up the chart, and I said, after I did it and I proved to myself I could do it, I said, I will pay for it. I will never do this again in my whole life. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I appreciate those of you that can do it.
I don't do it that way.
Well, you do it computers now, but
the computers
I'm still saying that.
But
so I got away from it. I had a fabulous woman that was brilliant with it, and she used to talk it here and there, and I picked up a lot. But I still felt that he played part of the movie, and you just said, see who's what sign. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. And I laughed. It took me about 30 seconds to figure out who was what sign. Yeah. And I said,
then you can see the world. It's like they're all it's like we're all white light, like spread into some prism of planet energy. And so there's just archetypes everywhere. So you see them, and it's just like, oh,
it just made what I would overthink into something so simple.
Yeah.
That
I think
really
that's what astrology suffered from a long time, was the people that were really good at it loved that like super tedious math part. Like I get the math and what's going on, but like most people are not going to like meet people in that mathematical place. It is like psychodrama. It's superhuman.
Yeah, I did accounting for a living, so to sit there and have to go into that mode to do those charts, like, I don't think so. Yeah. I really don't think so. So.
Yeah. Or to think about transits or things changing, or. Yep. Yeah, it gets nuts fast.
Yes, and so I really enjoyed that class. Good. For sure.
I'm probably going to take mine down a little bit, like you were just saying about the 4-hour class.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I fire-hosed a lot of people, and in the moment people got it, but I think afterwards, they're like, wow, that was cool.
But I still think that sometimes if you do 2 hours, you know what I mean, it works better than if you do a 4. But I'm not even talking a class. I was talking like these people that I was talking to.
No, I understand.
No, it was a hypnosis session.
Oh wow, a 4-hour hypnosis session.
I'd be slitting my wrists.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to try it.
Well, I got to tell you, you laugh. I did acupuncture, and the gentleman that did acupuncture with me. The first time I was there, I had looked at him, and he had like rainbow shoelaces in his shoes. And when I looked up at the ceiling, his daughter introduced me to her mediumship-wise, right? Introduced me and gave me all these messages for the father. So I said to the guy, do you want the messages? And he said, absolutely. I wear these shoelaces in her honor. And I said, I said to her, you wear those shoelaces in her honor. She used to make him wear them when she was a little, younger. And then the joke was he used every birthday or Christmas, she'd get him the rainbow shoelaces. So at 18 years old, she was hit by a drunk driver in a car and passed away. And he was devastated by it. So as a thank you, every time when I went in there, he kept making my sessions longer and longer because he was so appreciative that he got that message. So I ended up pacing the floor with all the needles in me, which you're not supposed to do. I had red dots like all over my body. I looked like a red dot thing, Did
you get up and wander around after you left?
I'm pacing because I couldn't stay still that long. So especially in New England, we have to keep it. You know what I mean? Yeah. The pace, a certain pace. Yep. Else we lose their attention span. Yep. So it is crazy.
But did he tell you not to? I just got acupuncture recently for like the first time, and it was fabulous. But it was,
you? Yeah.
But it was definitely like, don't flex even. So I imagine.
Well, I laughed because I was paying for my daughter. She's diabetic in the neuropathy, and then I was paying for my other daughter, gifting her it for rheumatoid arthritis, and they were having such a great time. So my husband tried it for.
They're having a great time.
He had really severe migraine headaches. So he tried it. It didn't help it. Which we later found. I said to him, "That football player uses oxygen. Why don't you use oxygen?" And his doctor goes, "That's brilliant," and it worked right away after all these things they tried with them. Yeah. But anyway, so
we all should be responsible.
So now I was jealous because I never had it. So I went to have it, and I made up a reason. Do you know what I mean? I kind of just thought up a reason
to get acupuncture.
To get acupuncture because I was dying to see what it was like.
As everybody does.
Yeah.
That's what I did too.
Did you really?
No.
That's a riot. Yeah. Just kind of made up something to get acupuncture to check what it was about, right? And like I said, the guy is fabulous. And like I said, 2 of my daughters, he helped off the charts. So I decided to try it. And then I paced, so I couldn't go back. I was like, he said, "Why didn't you just call me?" But I didn't know if he had other people in other rooms, like he had multiple rooms. So I just sat there, and then I couldn't stand it anymore. So I stood up and I paced. So yeah, we have to keep things at a certain pace for those of us in this thing. So talk a little bit about the new course that you wanted to do.
So that's what I was talking about a little bit. But it really is talking about psychology. It's a little metaphysical. It's experience. There'll be like exercises, protocols on like just how to communicate.
And then it's a little astrology too in it, you were saying?
Yep. So there's definitely astrology aspects. So we get into things like, what's the difference between like identity and personality and character? Like character is kind of like your sun, and it's what you put your effort into and the habits that you do and drive. It's your intention. And then your identity is kind of like things you don't always understand and are nuanced. And I think that's where people need time to understand each other. Like, we're so different. Like, you can't just ask them one question and know like everything that they barely know about themselves. And the more that we talk with each other, we find out more about ourselves. And I feel like in the time frame, people's identity are getting hijacked by technology. So that was like my engineering stuff. It was information systems. That was all really understanding like what are algorithms and stuff doing now, where they're like filtering down people's options from like, it used to be 1 to 5, like it was yes and maybe yes, and now it's like yes, neutral, no, and everything was neutral, which we didn't care, right? And then it becomes just yes or no, and then everything's becoming galvanized and polarized, and we're accepting these pieces, and it's just like, it's us and them. Everything is us and them. Stuff we never even cared about 6 or 7 years ago comes in for like a year. So there's just this craziness that we're in, right? Like technology is like evolving, I think, faster than people have been. So I'm trying to like let people really understand, like, here's facets of who you are, and really take control of what they are and how to defend it from other people, and keep you from like being the wrecking ball as well.
Excellent. And you know what I find I really like with my father was very high IQ, like 168 or something like that,
Wow.
And I loved the conversations with him, but it was the electronics is like taken away from some really smart people.
Yeah.
You don't realize how smart they are because of some of the electronics.
Everything sound bites.
Sound bites and everything.
Yeah, and time. People don't sit down.
And then I had to laugh so hard because I had one day, this was back a few years ago, but I had a couple that they had to be like late 70s to 80s that came in. And I read the lady, and I totally enjoyed reading her, and it was fabulous. The husband was a very high IQ, and I so enjoyed the conversation, I like kidnapped him for like 2 hours, and the wife was laughing, and I said, I literally felt like the old days when I was talking to like my father and my uncle, because my uncle was my mother's brother, and he was very high IQ too, so I found it like so intriguing that I didn't let the man go, you know?
Lots of people actually really suffer from having like a high IQ. Like, it's not just, like they say, like you'll make more money and maybe live longer, but otherwise you suffer tremendously. Like, they live in a different world, and the more soundbite it is. Like,
and you probably learned your IQ because of military, correct?
No, I learned it in, I was in school. I thought I was a big dummy. I skipped school all the time, and I had a history teacher. It's McDonald. She's fantastic.
Don't you love those stories?
She's like, you should go check your IQ score. And I'm like, why is she calling me out in front of the class? And I looked, and it was pretty good, Well, and then I was a little offended and confused, and but it's a good thing to understand.
Well, my grandson, we had a laugh because, as I said, we do have some really high IQs in my family, and we were laughing because my grandson, his attention span is that of a flea, and it was first grade. And my daughter promoted it because they were trying to put him on meds, and she did not want him on any meds.
Yeah.
And some of it was for OCD, a little ADHD. We got we could do a Ritalin commercial, my family, but nobody's on any medication.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they suggested that she had him tested, and he was 138. And he didn't finish the last 3 pages of the IQ test because he got bored.
Wow.
So the guy turned around and he said, this child could either create the apocalypse or save us from the apocalypse. So let's hope he saves us from the apocalypse. And that's what the doctor, that's what the doctor said.
It's tough. I don't think people actually appreciate sometimes there is like a downside. Like, you got outside the bell curve, and like the way systems are now, everything's economy of scale, right? Like, I can't find shoes that fit, right? And it's the same thing. Like, if you're a little high or you're a little low and you get outside of that bell curve, there's not a lot of services.
Well, I wish they would check
support.
though a lot of the spectrum kids, because their IQs are off the charts. I can tell.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They're brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. They've just learned how to use different parts of the brain than other people have.
Yeah.
And I found that some of those, I gravitate towards them Do you know what I mean? I love talking to them because even though they think differently than us on certain levels, or their socialization is off.
Absolutely.
They're brilliant. They're absolutely
Yeah, I've seen children playing
brilliant.
games with their parents and their family, and they have their own rules, right? They're just playing their own game, like within the game, and everybody's trying to explain it to them, and they're like super polite. But instead of just saying like, I know this game is so boring, I'm making up my own rules, and I have my own objectives in doing it, and it's beautiful to see. But yeah, I think sometimes it's tough too.
Yes. But that being
weird
real
that's
and
not
stuff
really
like that,
common
and as I said,
understanding,
we've lost a lot of the authenticity of stuff because of so much electronics and stuff and so much time on it. Yeah.
So this is really about that connecting and using trust to belong and finding like your people and trusting first. Like nobody wants to trust first. You get one person that's loud and shuts you down, and then you stop talking to everybody. And
I'm laughing because I'm being forced to accept it more when I don't want
Accept
it.
what?
Electronics too.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
that stuff. So all of a sudden, like I'm sitting there going anti-electronics, and then all of a sudden I'm teaching in 2 different states classes, and then all of a sudden I'm doing the spiritual church services, and they didn't get their church on time, so they had to do it on. I had to do it online, and I said. And then there was a third thing, like I had 3 things in a row, and I said, well, somebody's slapping me and saying, well, you're going to learn this electronics whether you like it or not.
Yeah, the world's changing.
The world is changing, and we got to change with it.
Yeah,
so I'm excited about this new program, so I'm hoping that you're going to do it at the Mind's Eye.
Absolutely.
And about how long do you think the class would be? Like,
I'm thinking it would probably be like a full day.
Okay.
Or maybe like 2-4 hours in a weekend or something like that.
Something
like we
like
can
that.
talk. You'll know your people's
I'm just intrigued
agendas
now.
and
I'm
schedules.
intrigued now
but
because I really like stuff like that. So
yeah, I think it'll be really helpful.
Yeah,
I'm probably
I
not
think
selling
it
it
is.
very well, but
no, I'm excited about it because it's something that I think that a lot of people could use to get back to the back to reality and that kind of stuff.
I've done a few hours here and there with different people, and it seems like people are really getting it and powerful, like right out of the gate, to just be like, here's kind of who you are and what you might be doing. And it's like astrology or tarot or anything else, right? The purpose should all be like being your best self. This is just giving you like, fill in these boxes.
Yeah.
There's a couple other things to know about you, and through that like self-love and understanding, you see when other people are doing it, right? And if you can accept yourself, like accepting somebody else is so easy after that.
And that's what I have found even when I do readings. When I'm doing readings with people, there's so many people that haven't accepted themselves, and they've accepted other people's interpretation of themselves.
Sure.
And it's very sad. So I think that's exciting to learn. To get them to do it. So.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a huge piece.
So
if you don't belong with yourself,
that's a little hard thing.
A lot of challenge belonging.
So one of the ways that we can get a hold of Brett is on Facebook. Brett, B-R-E-T-T, Sheldon, S-H-E-L-D-O-N, right?
That's correct.
Ooh, I can write it right.
I think. Let me check my license.
So anyway, it's to get a hold of you because
they can reach out on Facebook.
You do have a lot. You have a lot of stuff that you're capable of doing. That I know.
Yeah,
I've learned,
it really
I've
comes down
from
to like what people want,
it's
like whatever they're
want,
feeling.
And
I feel like things kind of flow. But
you get bored too, and then you move on. And I relate to that.
I definitely appreciate doing a lot of different things.
I have to too. That's why I'm doing mediumship 1 minute, Reiki the next.
Yeah.
Then I'm teaching psychic detective the next, and then I'm, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I
things come together. There's like a synergy too. Show this direction, that direction.
I have to do that. It's good
for
I
your
get
soul.
the attention span of. My attention span is about this big. And I love the weeks where I have like one of this, one of that, and teaching this and teaching that. If I've got 12 readings in a week, I'm like, what the heck?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
good money, but it's not
Absolutely.
good for your soul, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
totally
so I prefer when I'm doing all different stuff.
Yeah, keep it fresh.
Keep it fresh. Oh, that's the other thing I'm laughing at too, because besides teaching, I've got almost, I've been reading since Moby Dick was a minnow, so a lot of mine have moved down south, so I do a lot of phone readings now. So I'm laughing because I like that interpersonal.
You mean down south? You mean south? Not like underground?
No, not down south.
You mean like
no.
Georgia or something?
Yeah, I do talk to them too, but no. But
It's been a while.
I've been finding it that I'm doing a lot of phone readings, and probably 2/3 phone readings, 1/3 in
Wow.
person. That's a lot.
Wow.
So
you are high tech. You've already
I've had
adjusted.
to become high tech.
Yeah.
They're making me, baby. And I'm
The
like,
bridges.
And I did fight it. I did fight it.
Yep.
But
We all do.
yeah, and it's turned out, and then every once in a while you have somebody tells you have to put some other app on the phone because that's how they have to do things, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh my God. So every once in a while I have a fabulous nephew that he does tech for a living. That he
Plugs
comes
you in.
over and I have a list. Can you please fix this, and that kind of stuff because
back on the road.
I fight it terribly. If you ever saw me, I was doing Reiki certificates, and my computer is trying to get me to buy a higher version of whatever, so they're busting my beans, something awful. And then my printer wasn't connecting to it, and all this stuff. It took me 2 hours to do 4 bloody certificates. But all I had to do was change once I set up the first one, I had to change the names. And I turned around and I said, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So every once in a while I go to my old job, like the printer, the copy of the scanner, that thing, and I said to him, I can't handle a $200 one when I was used to a $28,000 one. And he says to me, just so you know, we've had to move up the ranks here, so it's a $68,000 one. And
That's crazy.
It's so much better doing the house stuff. And now none of us have phone lines, so I'm having to go to friends' businesses and stuff that still have the inlines.
Fax machine or whatever.
To do stuff. And it's crazy. And you would have been laughing. I got this friend and I love him dearly, but he makes techno. He's sure that everybody's spying on him type of thing. Do you know what I mean? So like when he orders off his phone, off the email, he orders off his computer and then the phone, and he keeps them very separate. So that way, so I had to use his and I had to scan it, and I needed to do an email. So I had to download his email on there, and then he could just disconnect it. But he was so freaked out, he decided that he was gonna, he was gonna burn his hard drive and put it in a new hard drive because he was sure that
Keep it clean.
keep it clean, yeah.
Yeah,
And I
it's
said,
getting crazy.
I thought I was
predictive
bad,
now.
but I thought he was nuts the first time he told me, and then I was talking to somebody about something, and all of a sudden I had 500 ads for it.
Yeah.
And I said, maybe not so much.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. So I'm so thrilled that you're going to be doing classes again, because that Don Bridge, that commercial, down payment for a car, 10 cents.
No.
Every year I get my tax return, and they want my whole tax return for the down payment on a car, 10 cents. And now we're delivering. Don't even get me on that bridge. Now we deliver, So
Rhode
you're
Island
on
in
the other
general.
side of the bridge.
I'm officially.
Yeah,
Took me a couple decades, but now I'm official.
Yeah.
Bridges suck. I'll pack a lunch.
Nice. My daughter works on the other side of the bridge, and she's having a mild breakdown because some nights
Yeah,
it's
it's
taking her
nuts.
forever.
It isn't even just that bridge. It's also Mount Hope Bridge. If I leave Bristol the other way, it's one lane. Newport.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The Newport Bridge gets choked down to one lane coming off of it.
Yeah.
So we've got a giant racetrack that's like Rhode Island's highway, and all
Yeah, I've had a
3
few
pivot
people,
points are jammed.
going back to the other thing, I just have a few people that are talking to me about other different classes that they're looking at to see if you're going to do again. So
Yeah.
I got to figure out who asked and what, when, why, and how, but
Sure.
I got to start writing
They're all
stuff
good.
down.
Yeah,
no,
anything I've done before, I can pull
you
out
can
and
do
do
it
that
again.
again.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I had 2 or 3 people that had brought up, and I'm not sure whether it's tarot or astrology or both.
Somebody I think was asking the age of Aquarius again too. I think.
Were they?
Yeah.
So in fact, I had a gentleman that took that class that was doing praises of it. So I want to thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Love it.
And it's Brett, Brett, Sheldon, Sheldon.
Yes.
And to get a hold of you, and you'll be at the Mind's Eye before you know it.
Yes.
We'll get you back
Very
in there.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.